Hi, friends. Welcome back. I'm Emily,
And I'm Whitney.
and you're listening to Cousins Talk Crime. So, Whitney, how has your week been?
It's been good. It's been super busy.
Super busy?
Yes.
Yeah.
How's your week been?
It's been good. No complaints. Yeah, it's been a good week. It's been a busy week too. I've had to work all week, working overtime and stuff like that.
How long are your hours when you're working overtime?
When I'm working overtime, so typically I work 12-hour shifts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like typically.
Typically, that's what I do. And then when I work overtime, it's just like working days that aren't my normal days. And so I have to work all weekend
Dang.
because we are short-handed at the moment.
That stinks.
But yeah, so we have a little life update.
Yes.
Yeah, since we are cousins that talk crime,
Yes.
we wanted to talk about one of our cousins that just had her very first baby a couple of days ago.
Yes, she did. And
Yeah.
she's so cute.
She's so stinking cute.
She's so sweet.
Yeah, by the time this releases, she'll probably be like a week old or so,
Yep.
but yeah. And then I actually have another cousin that is probably going to have a baby this weekend. So by the time this releases, she might have already had her baby.
When does she do? Do you know?
She's actually not due for a while. This baby's going to be about 12 weeks early. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And they're preparing for it. Like
yeah. If you pray, if you do
Yeah.
anything that you do that can help, send a prayer out for my cousin. She's going to need it.
Yeah.
And
My sister's getting ready to have a baby.
I know. And my other cousin's going to have a baby.
Yeah, she's due, I think, around like May 5th.
May 5th, a
Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo baby.
Yeah, May 4th. Yeah, around that time.
Yeah.
But her due date keeps moving up. I don't know how she does that. She's like, every time she goes, she's like, oh, it's going to be. I'm like, how are you doing that? I think she's ready to have it.
Oh, yeah. I think our cousin that just had a baby, I knew she was ready to have the baby. I guess the baby got the sense and
Yeah,
decided it was like, okay,
it's time for me to come out.
it's time to go. Mom's evicting me.
Well, enough about babies.
Enough about babies.
This week, I am covering the case of Chad McGhee from Duggar, Indiana. Chad was 36 years old when he went missing, and he went missing around the time of, let me pull up my calendar because it's not the same day that he was reported missing. The last time anyone's seen him was around August 14th and August 15th. And then his family, his dad actually reported him missing the 17th of August.
And did you say what year it was?
2013. So 10 years, 11 years
Almost
ago?
like 10 and a half years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 and a half years ago. So not too long ago.
No.
He is still to this day missing. No one has found him. No one has heard of him. Still missing.
I don't get how people can just go missing off the face of the earth.
Yeah, and I was talking to Emily before we started recording. There's like nothing online about this case. Basically, I'll give you the details that are online. It says he was a white male born July 13th, 1977. His age was 36 years old. His height was 6 foot, 180 pounds. His clothing description was a black t-shirt, black pants or blue jeans, a black baseball cap, and sunglasses. And some characteristics, he had brown hair, green eyes, mustache, beard at the time of his disappearance. He has a full sleeve tattoo on his right arm and a barbed wire band tattooed around his left upper arm. And he wears contact lenses.
Okay.
At the time this was reported, the sheriff did make a statement. And this, I feel like, was, I'd have to look at the date, but it was after he'd been missing for a certain time. And it said, we have to assume at this point that this is a homicide and we have to work it as such until something comes along that proves otherwise. That is how we will address this case. So they were assuming it was homicide.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'll give a little backstory on the last day that his family saw him. So on the Wednesday morning of August 14th, 2013, Chad McGhee got his two boys on the school bus to go to school. It was his youngest son's first day of kindergarten. Chad was living with his parents at the time. His wife, who they were separated at the time, dropped the boys off that morning because she had to be at work early. She dropped him off. She said her and Chad had somewhat of a conversation. He mentioned like wanting to get back together with her, asking if they could ever get back together. And she basically told him no, because Chad at this point in his life was going through, he was in a place where he was getting into drugs and he had had trouble in the past with drugs, but he had been in work release for 3 years for a drug charge and he was off on work release working. So Chad was living at his parents' house at the time. His mom was going to take him around to put in applications that day to find a job. His mom's name was Connie McGee and she worked night shift. And when she got home from work, Chad had got the boys on the bus, and she said he was in the backyard and they had plans to go on the job hunt that afternoon. And they wanted to find a job because he had lost his job earlier in the week and he had a probation meeting on Friday. And she wanted to make sure he had a job before that probation meeting because if not, it would be breaking his probation and he would get in trouble. So she talked to him. He was hanging out in the backyard. She went to sleep. When she woke up, Chad was gone, and she had no idea that would be the last time she would ever see her son.
Aww.
So just went from, we're going to go look for jobs today, to waking up and he wasn't there. So like I said, he had currently been on work release, but recently lost his job. His mom had talked to Chad's grandma the next day, so probably on like Thursday. She's not 100% sure on this. Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. But she talked to Chad's grandma, and the grandma lived in Cass. And I don't know if you know where like the Cass ball diamonds are. Have you ever been out there in Duggar? It's close to Duggar, Cass is.
I'm pretty sure.
So
I remember
I
seeing
grew
it.
up playing softball at those ball diamonds, but I guess his grandma lives right beside there. And in her backyard are these stripper pits where like people like swim and canoe.
Okay.
And the grandma told her that Chad had been out there swimming. Like this is prior from Wednesday. And they don't know if it was on Thursday or if it was on Friday that he was saw swimming, but it was one of those 2 days.
And Wednesday night was the last time she saw him?
Wednesday day, that morning when she went to
Oh.
sleep. Yeah, it was less him
Oh, I
mom
forgot
saw
she
him.
works
Yeah.
third shift. Okay.
Yeah. So they're thinking it was Thursday that
Okay.
he was there swimming and canoeing. And the grandma said that when she talked to Chad, he was like trying to clear his head and get his life together. And but yeah, they're not really for sure. And it could have maybe even been Wednesday. Like I said, the grandma didn't think it was significant at the time. And back then, it was nothing for him to come out there. She didn't realize that he didn't go get jobs that day like he was supposed to, or that his mom was kind of wondering where he was.
Yeah.
His mom also mentioned that Chad in the previous days had lost his cell phone. So he didn't have a cell phone, but they had a landline. And they live in Duggar, but it's quite a distance from Cass. And his car never left. So someone had to pick him up to take him out to Cass. And I don't think it was unusual for his friends to pop in at that time at his house and see him. So they don't know who brought him to the grandma's house or took him out there. But I looked and it's quite a walk. I don't want to give out his parents' like address, but
Yeah.
it's not like something you would go on a walk. It'd probably take like 15, 20 minutes, you
Okay.
know? So they're assuming he probably used the landline and called somebody since he didn't have a cell phone, or someone just came and picked him up. That Friday, Chad's mom and dad decided they were going to go to his probation meeting on Friday morning to see if Chad, shows up. Even though his car's at their house, his belongings are at their house, he was already missing his cell phone. So they go to the probation meeting and Chad never shows. They explain to them that they haven't had contact with him either. They're supposed to go on this job search, Since he didn't show up and missed his appointment, they decide that they're going to put out a warrant for his arrest, which that warrant doesn't get issued till the 19th. And I'm saying that because when I looked on news articles, it was like he was running from his warrant, but like he was reported missing before the warrant ever, got released. But I think it looked like on the news, like he has a warrant for his arrest. And so I think maybe some people assumed he was on the run from the law. But from what I read, which there's very little about this case online.
Yeah.
The police department didn't feel that was true. They didn't think he was, he had his car, didn't have a cell phone, all his belongings. Like, he had nothing to,
Mm-hmm.
It takes some money to be on the run,
It does. You can't just
Yeah, up and go.
live off the earth.
Yeah, so later on Friday, his parents start receiving some alarming phone calls to them saying that. And they didn't elaborate on who the phone calls were from, but I'm assuming it's acquaintances of Chad.
Mm-hmm.
But to the point that they're saying, hey, something bad has happened to Chad. Like, they were hearing rumors around that something had happened to him. The people that were calling his parents. And they didn't elaborate on who or what exactly those people said, just that something, has happened to him. And so that night, I know his dad went out looking for him, like all the places he thought Chad might be, driving around like all night long.
Oh.
And then it was that Saturday, which was the 17th, that they went and got him officially reported missing. And so that's when the missing person report got filed. And then the warrant for his arrest was on the 19th, so a couple days later. Because it probably took them a couple days since he missed on Friday to get that.
To get all this stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So, a couple days later, at his mother-in-law's house, which is his wife's mom, which they're separated. But I guess his wife had a brother that Chad and him were friends. And the wife told me, well, ex-wife, that it was nothing for Chad to be over there hanging out with her brother at her mom's house, and that her and Chad actually at the time had a really good relationship. She said they were still like best friends. She said like Chad was her best friend, and she said, and she thinks she was Chad's best friend as well. But so it wasn't unusual that he was hanging out there with her brother. Anyway, back to my point. A couple days later at his mother-in-law's house, his mother-in-law and one of her family relatives were out standing talking on the porch, and he caught a glimmer of something underneath the porch, and when they went under there and got it out, it was Chad's cell phone and his wallet.
What?
Yeah.
And
that's what I said.
This is under the porch of his mother-in-law's house.
Yeah, his wife that he separated from.
And the brother that he's really good friends with as well.
Yeah, his wife's brother lives there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't nothing for him to come over and visit. But remember, he had lost his phone previously to him going missing.
Yeah.
And so the mother-in-law said that a couple of days prior to him losing his phone, that he was over at her house and he was acting bizarre. He was acting kind of strung out, maybe on drugs, and looking out all the windows saying that someone was coming to get him and that being really paranoid, like saying someone's coming to get me, like, and just constantly like moving, looking out all the windows, and she was like, Chad, go outside, like.
Do you know if it was meth?
I do know his charge the 4 years prior was for meth and dealing and being in, yeah.
Just like your example there of him being paranoid and stuff, it just brought me back to, have you ever seen Breaking Bad?
No, but I've heard it's really good.
Well, okay, so one of the characters in Breaking Bad,
Yes.
he's on and off a junkie,
Yeah.
what they call it. And there was one time that like Jehovah's Witnesses were walking, or not walking around, they were on their bikes. And him in his methed out state, he was picturing them as like big biker dudes coming to kill him. But it was really just a Jehovah's Witness coming to knock on the door and tell him about Jesus.
Oh my gosh. No, and people they're out of their mind when they're doing that kind of stuff. And I know like he had went through a phase where he was trying to do better, but he had struggled with it in the past.
Yeah.
And I think he was currently using when he went missing.
It's too bad.
Yeah. And it's sad because I feel like a lot of times people that are, when they go missing like that, I mean, not that people don't look for them, but they don't take things as seriously because they're like, could they just be out getting hot? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Are they just out getting a fix, like, and didn't find,
Mm-hmm.
But this was just bizarre to me. So at first I was like, did he hide his phone and wallet underneath the porch? Or did it like fall out of his pocket, when he was, tripping out about someone coming to get him? Because, I mean, it could go either way. And I really wanted to see the porch. Because, like, to me, I'm like, could something just
slip through the crack?
Yeah, or is it like a porch where, like, you can't hard... But for that uncle to see a cell phone underneath the porch, like, maybe it was wide enough, that it fell out of a pocket or something.
Yeah, but it could have also been like a wooden porch that something couldn't fall through, but there was lattice on the front, and that's how he saw it. Unless he's saying he saw it through the cracks in the bottom. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, because I kind of asked her that because I was like, did he hear it ringing? Like, and they're like, no, he just caught a glimpse, it was his wallet and his phone.
Interesting. I'm also reverting back. I'm reverting back to TV. I know it's not reality, but there's also another part in Breaking Bad where one of the characters gets someone that's high on meth to dig a giant hole in a yard.
Right.
So he could have thought that someone was coming to get him, and he hid his stuff on his own.
Yeah, he might have.
In his paranoid state.
He might have put it underneath there thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want anyone to see it and then forgot that he hid it.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. But so when his mom saw that it was Chad's phone and wallet, he had been reported missing at this time. So she directly brought it to Chad's parents. And they took it to the police department and was like, here's his phone, here's his wallet. And I think at that time, maybe they were like, okay, like this, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have a phone, he doesn't have a wallet. Like, no one just, I don't feel like, willingly ups and goes without everything. But
I wouldn't think so either.
Yeah, like your car, like your clothes, like nothing.
Not at least in a
Right.
a good mental state where they're probably safe.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to that day that he went missing. His wife that was separated at the time, she said that this like tugged at my heart that the kids did say that he gave them a really big hug that day and told them how much he loved them, because that was their last time seeing their dad as well, before they got on the bus for school. Yeah, and this is one thing that I wanted to discuss with this missing persons case. I feel like it's important to remember that his involvement with drugs, I don't feel like that should define Chad's identity. I really feel like he was a son, a grandson, and a father himself, and he had so many people in his life who loved him and cared about him. And I don't know, I hate the stigma around,
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because,
Because you've heard of so many people turning their life around. I mean, he was 36, and by all means, should he have had it together? You know, probably.
yeah.
But he didn't at the time. But who's to say he couldn't have, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and drug addiction is a true sickness.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
at the point that he was, it wasn't a choice
Oh,
anymore.
no.
It wasn't a choice. Did he make
No.
a bad choice,
Yeah.
once before in his life and get addicted to something that would ruin your life? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
at that point in his life, it wasn't a choice anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like he's just not getting his life on track. It's a
Right.
sickness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's sad. Like I said, his family started getting these calls that something bad had happened to him, and so did the ex-wife. Um, she started getting these same people were calling her saying, "Hey, something has happened to him," like bad.
Who the
And
heck is calling?
again, like I didn't get like actual names of the people that were making these calls. And I think he also at the time ran around with people who indulged in the same things he did.
Yeah.
He was with a rougher, crowd at the time. But that's why his dad continued every night, just was searching for him, like up and down, like driving. Like I guess he was, I mean, weeks out every night looking for him. This his parents did mention that none of the friends really helped in the search.
Well, no, yeah, because unfortunately, when you're around
Yeah.
drugs and people, they're not your friends.
Mm-mm.
You just become a resource for them and vice versa.
Yeah. And sadly, there's not much information on this case at all. When you Google Chad McGhee missing, you'll get a couple articles that say like the date he went missing and what he was wearing, and also that the police do suspect foul play. I do want to note that his ex-wife last April, they got it where Chad was officially pronounced dead and issued a death certificate for his family. Because I think there's like something with the kids can get like social security benefits. He
Yeah.
was actually pronounced dead. And he actually has 3 children. He was married previously to the current wife and they had a daughter, and then he had 2 boys with her. So I think all 3 kids are getting split part of what he would get. And so this was another thing. So when he got pronounced dead, they went to court. She had to get a lawyer and everything. And they wanted his stuff back, his personal belongings. They got the wallet, but the police department said that they had lost his phone. That was
What?
that was put into evidence.
How do you lose the phone?
Yeah. That's what I said when she told me that.
What police
So no
department is
phone.
this?
Sullivan.
Sullivan County?
Mm-hmm.
You lost
No
it.
phone, yeah. So when I talked to, because my biggest thing were before I realized he didn't have his phone those last couple of days, I was like, who was he talking to? Like, did you guys look into his phone records? And he was actually on his mom and dad's plan. So they did. And they could see the typical friends. He was always they were on there, but not that day, because he didn't have his phone.
Yeah.
It was under
There's
that
not gonna
porch.
be
Yeah.
much to
He
see there.
either called someone using that house phone to get a ride, or someone just stopped in and picked him up. So the last sighting of him that we know to be true is the grandma seeing him swimming in that stripper pit and canoeing and clearing his head. And I think at the time it was a place kids well, not just people hung out. I mean, he wasn't a kid, he was 36, but um I don't know if she knew who was actually back there with him, or if it was actually someone who brought him, or if it was just other people out there swimming and canoeing,
Yeah.
But she didn't know that, cuz my biggest thing was that person that picked him up, where did he go after that?
Yeah.
Like who was it that gave him the ride to his grandma's, and how did he leave there? Or did he leave there? Like, but
I mean, have they done searches of the stripper pit or anything? Like they haven't looked for his body inside of there? What?
no.
That makes zero sense. What is that
There's
YouTube
like
channel?
teams that come in and do that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
what's that YouTube channel? There's a YouTube channel of people that go search for people in water. We'll call
Mm-hmm.
them up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually did, and it wasn't who you're thinking of, but I was on Reddit looking at people in Indiana that do scuba diving to find bodies, and this guy did put his like email and phone number and link of videos where he's found people, and I did send him an email,
Oh, really?
like just asking like how much is it,
Yeah.
like what's it look like, and I haven't received an email back, but I am really curious to know like what something like that costs to have, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I'm even thinking, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But the YouTube channel that I know of,
Yeah.
I don't think they charge people anything
Oh,
just
they just
because
go.
they get so much money from
Oh,
their
yeah.
YouTube channel that they don't want to take
Yeah.
money.
And they probably get donations for stuff like that too, I would
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah. I know the local police never like this company because they're finding people that the police.
Yeah. I've seen a lot where people do. I've seen one, and I don't know if you're talking about the same one, but it's a YouTube when they go in and like search, like they have all the equipment and
Yeah.
all the
We might be
things.
thinking of the same group. I can't remember
Yeah.
what it's called, but
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
figure that out.
I know it's a guy, but yeah. That's not who I emailed though. This was just like a someone posting saying they do it.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm sure there's a long list to get onto something like that.
Yeah, you
And
probably have to be pretty sure that he's in there
right.
before they would come out.
Yeah, and I know the family told me, which they can't confirm it, but they said they had calls all that weekend saying there were sightings of him. I don't know exactly where people, but that people were calling saying they seen him here, seen him there, and I mean, I don't know if he was out just like.
This is suspicious. Makes me think of someone that's involved wants
Yeah.
to claim that there were sightings of him, even
Yeah.
though he wasn't actually there. Just to
Yeah,
That's
because
weird.
his mom has never seen him since that Wednesday, and
Yeah.
neither has the ex-wife. But yeah, they were getting calls that we seen him here, and I don't even know where exactly the locations were. But I do know the family and the ex-wife, they both 100% believe it was foul play. They think he got murdered. Um his mom told me that he owed someone money and that he had mentioned it to her that he owed this person, money, and she was trying to get, but she said he never told her who that person was that he owed money to. Because I was like, who was it? Who do you owe money to? But she doesn't know. But another thing is, now maybe I am the only one that thinks this way, but if someone owes you money, you're never going to get it if they're dead. You know what I mean? I don't see the motive with owing someone money. But what do you think? I mean, I know it happens, but in my opinion, like, well, you're never going to see anything now.
Yeah, I've thought the same thing. Like, if someone doesn't have your money by a certain time, like when you see in movies, TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, no, I'm gonna kill you. And you're like, well, you'll never get your money then. But I think it's also kind of like, well, then you just don't get to live. I know I don't get my money, but you don't get to
Right.
like enjoy life ever again. I
Right.
don't know.
And I don't know. I know drugs can make you paranoid, but that day when he was looking out the window saying they're gonna get me, was he talking about like the person that he owed money to? Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. And I know they believe there was foul play involved. But like I said, I don't think there's ever been any official suspects in the case. I don't. I know they said the police department at the beginning was working pretty diligently on it, and They said Indiana State Police, I think, came and took it over. And they said one guy did like work on it hard for 3 or 4 years, but never really came up with anything. So my biggest question was who picked him up to take him out there swimming? Because I mean, maybe they knew, even if maybe they knew where he was going afterwards, maybe they took him someplace afterwards, what his
Yeah.
plans were that day. Like,
That would have been potentially the last person that saw him alive, so
yeah. And like I said, I don't think his grandma thought much of it at the time, you
yeah, they
know?
probably did this all the time.
Yeah. Um, but if you're from Duggar, Indiana, and you know anything about this case, I would really love to talk to you because since there isn't any information online, all the information I'm getting is from people who will talk to me about it. And I know it was 10 years ago, and even if it's people that have cleaned up their act, but they might have been, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to out anyone for, you know what I mean, who they
Yeah.
were 10 years ago. You know, people grow up, people change. I would love some more information on what people that were close to him back then might have, you know what I mean, what they
Yeah.
think happened. Or, because, like I said, there's just not a lot out there on it. They did get that death certificate issued. They did get his wallet back. His phone's still missing. Um, his mother did mention, and I wanted to bring this up, that he was the quarterback of the football team at Union High School.
Aw.
He liked playing sports. He liked playing baseball. He did fish and stuff, but he was like involved in all the sports and stuff in school. And he did graduate from Union High School. I think he just got caught up in running around with the wrong crowd, like many people do, and he made some bad decisions. My main thing is, though, I would love to get some sort of closure for this family. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been 10 years and they have no answers. I mean, they literally had plans to go job hunting that day, and she never saw her son again. And his children, I mean, he got them on the bus that day, hugged them, told them that he loved them, and they've never seen him since. And even though he was into some stuff at the time, I just don't think he up and left everyone that cared about him willingly.
Mm-hmm.
But with that all being said, that's all I have for today.
Did they ever did they ever consider that this was possibly like a suicide or anything?
I
And
don't,
it was just somewhere so remote that no one's found it? Because, I mean, he had a lot of stuff going on.
yeah.
He knew he was going to be breaking his probation, and I don't know anything about him. I'm just
No,
kind of
yeah,
toying
and
with that.
those things have crossed my mind, or like an accidental drowning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you're out in a remote place and you might be doing drugs, you know, and you know what I mean? Anything I feel like is possible, you know, but I do think it's weird that his body has never been recovered unless like it was an accident in water, because I feel like the spots he frequented like went, if it would have been some type of suicide or OD, that they would have found his body, you
Yeah.
know?
A lot of people go hunting around.
Yeah, and I mean, he probably, if that was the case, went to somewhere familiar, I would assume. So my other thing was like an accident, you know, like if he did like get in the water, you know. I don't know, it would be nice to have some sort of closure for the family, regardless of like the outcome, you know, of the situation. And it's weird to me that the calls were coming in saying like something bad has happened to him. And I think that's why his parents and his ex-wife think it was foul play, because they had these people calling them saying like
Yeah,
these
that's very
people did
weird.
something to Chad. So,
Yeah, that's really weird.
mhm. Like, who were they hearing that from? And the thing is, they were making those calls saying, like, something has happened to him. Like, it's not good. And he's never been seen again. Like, I don't know if he was with something and someone witnessed, you know what I mean? Something happening
And they
and then
can't.
it's a small town and then they tell someone who's like, I'm calling, you know what I mean, his parents because I just heard this at, you know. That's
It's
what I think is bizarre.
it's 2013. Can they not trace back these phone numbers that people were
Mm-hmm.
calling from? It's not
Right.
like this happened in 1972.
Right.
This happened in 2013, where we have
Mm-hmm.
caller ID.
Yeah. And I would think the people he was mostly associated with at the time, they should have like pinged where their phones were. Because I'm pretty sure in 2013 they could ping locations of phones.
Oh, I don't know when that started, but I'm
I'm
sure.
pretty sure 10 years ago they could get phone pings, but I wish they would have looked into all those close associates and figured out where they, you know what I mean, where they were, you know, because he didn't have a phone to ping. Unfortunately, it was
Yeah.
underneath a porch. If it hadn't got brought up that he had lost his phone prior, the porch thing would have really threw me off. Like
Yeah.
if I thought he had had it when, you know, and then all of a sudden it's underneath the mother-in-law's porch, I would have been like, how did it get there? You know? But the fact that he lost it before he went missing. But this case, it just bothers me because there's just no information, and I would really love someone to talk to me about it.
Yeah. So, do you know any of Duggar's a very small town, if you know nothing about Duggar, but do you know any of these people? Like, did you know any of these people prior?
Um, I had heard of Chad, but I did not know him. His ex-wife, no. I not until, you know what I mean?
I'm not
I
getting
didn't have
into
any
it.
knowledge of her. Some of the names that I got that were associates and friends with him,
Hmm.
a couple of them I do know,
Okay.
and I have reached out to them. One of them did tell me she would talk to me. The other two have not gotten back with me.
Yeah.
And I do want to make it clear on here because just like today, I don't feel like I mentioned like names. Like, I'm not gonna like throw people under the bus. Like, if you give
No.
me information, like, I'm not gonna get on here and say, Susie, Georgia told me that this is who did it and where, and I'm not gonna do that
No.
because everything is speculation, you know?
Yeah.
I would just like some more information. I'm not about trying to point fingers or blame or I just want to know like that week his what he was doing who really did see him last what his friends heard at the time like what do the people that were like hanging out with him daily what do they think happened you
Yeah.
know
And if you were making the phone calls to the
yeah
parents, you obviously felt some kind of
yeah obligation
obligation to tell
yeah
the parents.
that like hey this happened like something bad happened to
Yeah,
him
it's been 10 years.
yeah
Bring it on again.
yeah
You know, make a fake Facebook and
right, and message me. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it just whatever.
Yeah,
The
you don't
family,
even have to tell me your identity if you don't want to.
yeah,
Just,
the family just wants closure. I mean,
mm-hmm.
they're assuming the worst. They
Yeah.
just want closure of
Yeah.
where
And
he
like
is
I
and
said,
that
I'm
he's
not gonna name drop. I'm not gonna bring up anyone's past that doesn't want their past talking, you know what I mean, about like it can be completely anonymous. I
yeah.
just really there has to be someone that knows something, you know?
Yeah. There is. There's
Yeah,
somebody that knows
somebody
something.
has a clue about something. And even if it's a small detail, you don't know, it could help, you know, or if you saw him from that, you know, Wednesday to Saturday, like if you're one of the people that are like, I saw him at, you know, call us, email us, message me, let us know like where you saw him at and what he was doing and who he was with, you know?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Interesting.
It is interesting. I hope that someone can come forward and say something.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're going to go to prison or anything,
No,
you know what I
no,
mean? It
no.
just,
his family does deserve answers. I
They do.
mean, he
Yeah.
has kids that probably would like to know, you know. So I do want to mention, because I forgot, Alicia, his ex-wife, and I'm sorry if I just butchered your name. I don't know if it's Alicia or
Alicia.
Alicia. Yeah, it could be Alicia. She told me that a couple days after they hadn't seen him and he had been missing, that she knew, you know, she was his best friend. She knew the people like he ran with. And she went over to one of their houses and she said she didn't even knock or anything. She just went right on in and she was like, "Have you guys seen, you know, Chad?" And they said no. And she said when she was there, she noticed he had all the seats out of his truck and they were bleaching it down and washing everything off. And they just said they wanted to clean out their truck. And she still to this day, she got a terrible feeling then from it. And she still to this day wonders why they had the seats out and had bleach out and were bleaching and cleaning everything.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you remembered to bring this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so if these were his friends, I'm assuming they were
Mm-hmm.
also drug addicts as well.
Yes.
I don't think the first thing on their mind is cleanliness, especially when it comes to bleach.
Yeah. And taking actual, like the seats were out of the truck.
Like, who unbolts the seats from their
Yeah.
truck to clean them with bleach?
Mm-hmm.
That is very suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah. And she also, like I said, Chad was her best friend and she would love, you know, some closure to know what happened to him. And yeah, when she told me that, I was like, wow, like that ain't good, you know? Like having the seats at, I don't know anyone who cleans and takes full seats out, you know, of a vehicle.
Unless you're getting it, detailed by a
Yeah.
professional. That's weird. That's very strange.
And she did say that she told the police this information and let them know.
But nothing came of it.
No.
Of course it didn't.
And I did hear a rumor from, like I said, allegedly her and his parents that they did bring in a female, and she took, I guess, a long lie detector test, and she passed. But that was the only person that I've ever heard happen to, you know, that got questioned or anything. And supposedly she passed the lie detector, so. You just don't know. It's a sad case, and like I said before, I would love some more information on it.
I
Like
know.
just his friends back then, or like I said, your name will be confidential. I will not mention it. So that is all I have for you on this case of Chad McGhee. And I also wanted to mention I would love to do a part two. I would love to gather some more information, do some more research, and hopefully, like, we can talk about this again and we have more information than we do today.
Yeah.
But that's all if the public, you know, wants to help me. And because, like I said, online you get that he went missing and what he was wearing. That's it.
Yeah.
There's not even a Reddit post. I tried going to Reddit.
Yeah,
you know?
Reddit usually has.
Reddit can usually bring up people you wouldn't think of, but no one in the Reddit community is even talking about it.
Wow.
Silent, yeah. Nothing on Facebook. I looked at old Facebook. I went back to anyone who shared his missing person, and then I went and read all the comments. And the only thing I saw in comments were like just other people saying that people know what happened. So, what happened, you know? Where is Chad?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one of the hard parts about coming from a very rural part. These little bitty teeny tiny towns,
Yeah.
I feel like stuff is not.
And for me personally, doing research on all these true crime cases, I have found that I really do like the missing person cases. And I
Yeah.
think you lean towards like when
Yeah, I
there's
do.
you know the answer, you know?
Yes, I like knowing the
Yeah, and I
answer.
really lean towards wanting to figure out, like,
You're definitely the more detective of the two,
yes.
because yeah, I don't like missing person cases. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really want to cover Lauren Spear
Yeah,
at some point,
yeah.
but
And she's
hers,
still missing.
yeah, she's still missing too.
Yeah.
I just, ugh,
So,
so
Emily, are
terrible.
you going to tell us what you're doing your next one on?
Yes. I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing next, but I do want to bring something up first about the Larry Eiler case.
Mm-hmm.
So I said I was gonna be done with Larry Eiler, and I am. But I feel like when we were talking about Larry Eiler's case, we were so confused as to why the police were never like testing for blood and
Yeah,
testing for DNA and stuff like
yeah.
that. And my brain sometimes I forget that DNA testing hasn't always been a thing. And so I did confirm that DNA testing was not a thing
Okay,
whenever Larry Eiler was committing his murders.
okay.
Shortly after it was.
Yeah,
It was in the 80s at some point, but
yeah.
not whenever he
Not
was.
when, yeah,
And so it makes a lot more sense why
yeah,
Larry wasn't caught before he was caught.
yeah.
So it does it makes things a little more clear.
Mm-hmm.
It makes
Yeah.
more sense. But yes, I will tell you about what I'm going to be covering next week. So next week I'm going to be bringing you the story of Shanda Scherer. If you haven't heard anything about Shanda, don't go look up because they've made a movie about her. There's all kinds of information that you can find on the internet.
I've never heard about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Um, so give it a week and I'll tell you all about it. Don't spoil yourself ahead of advance. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be bringing you next week.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in with us.
Don't forget, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. We are releasing video podcasts. So if you're listening to this and you would rather watch, just jump on over to YouTube. We're there.
Yes.
And vice versa. If you're on YouTube and you would rather listen to it, we won't be offended. Just hop on over to Spotify. And yeah,
Yep, and continue to share it with your friends, tell them about it.
we're wanting to branch out and
Yeah.
do
I
all kinds of
think
stuff.
you said we have some people in the UK or where are you?
Yeah, there was someone in the
I think
UK.
there's more than one now. There's a
Really?
couple of them, yeah.
I'll have to look. I'll have to look. I haven't looked, but
Yeah.
yeah, people.
And
I
almost
don't.
every state in the United States have almost tuned in. Have you looked where you can break it down to states?
No,
Yeah, and you can see what city they're listening in.
I didn't know that.
I'll show you. I'll break it down for you.
We should have a lot of Omaha, Nebraska listeners. I'll just say that.
We do have Houston, Texas, my sister. No,
Shout
but
out to
yeah,
shout out.
you can break it down by states and what cities.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
wild. That is
yep.
so cool.
Yeah, I did that the other day.
Very neat. I didn't know you could do that. I saw that you could break it down to country, but I didn't know you could break it
Yeah,
down to state. That's neat. I did notice that of like 80% of our listeners are females. Come on,
yeah.
guys. We need more guys around here, okay? Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.